Hi, my name is Eryck Bry, and welcome to my Mix with Mega session. The session that I'll be showing you today is from my recent release entitled Villain, featuring the lovely and super talented singer-songwriter Carly Bobis. So, let's hear a preview of the song.
You've played the part before, a jealous fool, but never figured out how the story goes. Now strike a pose, turn and face the crowd. You're a star in my show, star in my show. You could play the hero, dancing in the spotlight. I could be your villain. I could play the part, Harley Quinn, the queen of hearts. I could be your villain.
Alright, so I produced this song with a mix in mind, and in this session I solely used Plugin Alliance Mega Bundle, which literally has all the tools you need to mix a record. So with this song I was trying to incorporate trap elements, which you will hear in the rhythm section, and I added those distortion guitars in the hook to give it that pop rock feel to it. So it was a challenging mix to incorporate those two types of genres, but I'll show you how I was able to achieve it using the Mega Bundle. I tried to mix first with the rhythm section, then I'll work my way to the vocals, and then the instruments, I would just build it around the vocals. Usually when I program and produce a song, particularly this song, I try to get that sound as close as possible in the arrangement. So basically what I'm doing in the mix is just sweetening it a little bit, to give it that extra sound, or that's the extra character. So I usually like to mix the drums first. Let's give it a listen. So this is the stanza part of the song. So it's pretty simple. It's just a kick and snare. Let's solo the kick. So with the kick, I used the neo-old Big Al. This plugin gives you that extra saturation and a little bit of the grit on the track. So if I bypass this, unbypassed, it just gives that little bit of sweetness to it. Mixing is really subjective, so if you want to drive the plugin more, go for it, but make sure it sounds good as a whole when you're doing it. So with the kick drum, I just have a little bit of the drive going. I mean, you could push it as much as you want to make it more dirtier, but I didn't want to go that far for the kick, so I'll stay where it is. And the next plugin I used for that is the challenge strip. It is one of my favorite challenge strips. It's the SSL 9000J. I have it on my second group of inserts, so whatever processing I want to do before the challenge strip, I would just use the first group of inserts, and then I would just add whatever plugin after that if I still want to do those extra tweaks that I wanted to do for the signal. So this is how the kick sounds with it. After the challenge strip, I added the BX Digital V3, which is one of my favorite plugins. The reason why I added that, even though I already have the sound that I want using the challenge strip, I wanted to cut with a steep Q the high and low end, going into the pre-chorus to give it that muffled sound. And I did the same thing with the snare, so I'll play the snare with that. So now let's move into the snare. So with the snare, it's pretty simple. Like I said, I produced a song with a mix already in mind, so the sounds that I picked for the song is really close to where I wanted it. So in the mix, I just literally just did little tweaks. I gave it a little bit of that high mid filter, just a tad bit, around 2.4 hertz. A little compression going, if you notice, all the way up to 20 dB. Let's solo that snare real quick so you could hear what I did. And this is with. So it gave it a little spunk. Now with a kick. And again, before it hits the pre-chorus, I did the same thing I did with the kick drum, which I just did a high-pass filter. Just automate it. If you ever noticed, my rhythm section is pretty simple. I didn't do a lot of processing. I had one more snare layered in the chorus to give it a little bit more body, so it sounds different from the stanzas. Let's hear that. Let's mute the drums bit. So it gives it a little bit of that knock. And I processed each snare differently. So this one, I added more of that low mid frequency. And I routed both snare to a reverb using the BX, the BX Room, which is one of my favorite reverbs right now. And what I did with the whole rhythm section, I routed it to a drum bus. And with the drum bus, what I did is I added the Lindell 50 series. And the reason why I added this is that the compressor section of it is based on the API 2500, which is one of my favorite compressors, especially for rhythm drums. So I added that. If you noticed, that's the only one that's engaged. So what I did, I just routed everything there to give it a little bit of life to the drum kit. Let me bypass this so you hear the difference. So it just brings it up just a tad bit, you know, gives it a little bit more of that attitude, that grip. So that's the rhythm section right there. The main focus on the song is more in the rhythm section and the bass, which is the 808. So I mixed the 808 right after I did the rhythm. So let's hear that 808, which is only the 808 is only going in the intro, the hook, and the bridge. The stanza doesn't have any 808s in it. So let's hear that. I'm gonna play it from the intro. It's pretty simple. So with the 808, I use the Brainrose BX Opto. Let's actually play it on the chorus. All right, so let me mute the rhythm section so you can just hear the 808. And again, with the 808, I use the SSL 9000J. And if you notice, the high pass filter is automated, And the reason what I did that is that there's certain parts of the song where I kind of filtered the 808 so it doesn't sound like, so it has a little bit of that movement. So at the end of the intro, before it hits the stanza, it just filters it out. One thing I love automation, it gives it that movement. And this is exactly the reason why I did this. And I basically did the same exact thing all in some parts of the song. Here. It gives it that separation between the chorus and the pre-chorus. So another plugin that I used after the channel strip is the unfiltered audio zip. I use it as a sidechain so my kick could just like punch through the 808. All right, so I'll show you how the unfiltered audio is using the kick as a sidechain for the 808. So what basically it's doing is just ducking those areas where the kick is hitting to give it more of that punch, and it just cuts through. So if I bypass that, and now with it active, so you can hear that kick coming through the 808. After I was done mixing the rhythm section and the 808, I started working on the vocals. What I usually do in my vocals, I separate each part of the song so I could process it differently, particularly the sends. In the mix, I have the stanzas on a separate track, the pre-chorus in a separate track, the choruses, and the vocal effects in separate tracks. So the reason why I do that, so I could process each individual parts of the song separately. Carly has a very unique vocal. She has that soulful, raspy tone, and I wanted her vocals to mesh well with the song. Let's listen to the first stanza.
You've played the part before, a jealous role, but never figured out.
So the first plugin that I use on the vocals is the Lindell 80 series. If you ever noticed, I'm only using the EQ section of it, and as well as the fader. So I automated it because I don't want the compressor that I'm going to use after the challenge, that plugin, to work too much. The next plugin I used on her vocals is one of my favorite compressor is the Brainworks VSC2. So basically this compressor is just catching those little peaks, but it's not working as hard because I automated those levels.
You've played the part before.
The compressor is not, it's just catching those little peaks from the vocals, but it's not really working that hard because I was using that automation to even out the levels. After the using the VSC compressor, I use the de-esser.
You've played the part before, a jealous role, but never figured out.
Her vocals was recorded with a really, really bright mic. So I kind of like, I was like, you know what, let me tame that high end a little bit to give it that dark feel. So what I did using, again, the SSL 9000J, so let's hear the vocals without the channel strip.
You've played the part before, a jealous role,
And this is with the channel strip engaged.
figured out how the story.
So it's super clean and it gives it the character that I wanted. So the second compressor that I use on the vocals is the XLA3. It's actually an awesome compressor. I use this a lot on vocals. So it gives it that tonal character to it. So let's hear it with and without. This is bypassed. And keep in mind, I added more gain, input gain, and as well as output gain to it. So the difference in volume is definitely vary.
You've paid the poppy for a jealous role.
That was bypassed, and now let's have it active.
You've paid the poppy for a jealous role, but never figured.
See, it just gave it that character for on her vocals. The next plugin I used on her vocals is the Big Al, more for saturation. Like I said, I wanted her vocals to match the song, to have the same, almost like the villain character to it. So yes, I cut a lot of that high frequency, give it more grit and character, and now add a little bit of drive.
You've paid the poppy for a jealous role, but never figured.
And this is with it active.
You've paid the poppy for a jealous role.
Now you, especially when you use this on vocals, you have to be very careful because sometimes you could push it far. But like I said, mixing is subjective. If you really want to dirty up the vocals, you could just push the drive up.
You've paid the poppy for a jealous role, but never figured out how the story goes.
Yeah, so if you really want your vocals to sound a little dirty, have that grit, you could definitely push the drive more. And obviously you could tweak it to your liking. But for the purpose for this song, I kept it just minimal. So what I like to also do in the vocals is add parallel compression. Parallel compression gives it that body in the vocals and a little bit of that character as well. So what I use in the parallel compression, I'm using the Purple MC77, which is one of my favorite compression. So I routed the main vocals to an aux and make sure it's on pre. And I had the purple at high ratio. Next to the purple, I am using the BX clean sweep. So I am just affecting the middle part of that signal. And then after that, I'm using another de-esser. So because one thing about using a compressor, it brings up those S's again, the sibilants. So I'll make sure that it's not exaggerating those using the parallel compression. So let's hear this vocals with the purple bypassed.
You've paid the poppy for a jealous role, but never figured out.
Now this is with it active.
You've paid the poppy for a jealous role, but never figured out.
So if you notice, it gave the vocals a little bit of that character, that body, which was I'm looking for. And the reason why I routed it on an aux is you could literally play with the fader to see how much parallel compression you want. What I also did is that I routed each individual vocals of every part of the song to separate reverbs. So on the stanzas, I am using the BX room, and for the pre-chorus, I am using the unfiltered audio biome. This plugin got some great reverbs, especially if you want that weird, spacey effect, reverb effect. This is the plugin for it.
You're a star in my show, a started my show.
So it gives it that spacey, almost that that massive yet dirty reverb that I'm looking for. Now let's move on to the chorus. Again, I'm using the BX Room for it.
You could play the hero, dancing in the spotlight.
For every reverb, I usually use a compressor right after that. And the reason why I'm doing that is that I want to duck some of the reverb when she's singing something. So for every phrase she says, the reverb is ducked down a little bit, and then the reverb opens up as soon as she's finishing singing or finishing saying a certain phrase. And with this, I am using the Alicia Empressor.
You've played the part before, a jealous role, but never figured out.
So if you notice, it's ducking some of that reverb when she's singing, and it just opens it up right after she's done. So that's what I wanted to do. I don't want the vocals to drown in reverb. So this is a great way of doing it. Now, also with the vocals, I added delays. Now with the delays, again, I routed it to a different aux. I have two delays going on. One for the stanza and chorus, and the second one is for the pre-chorus and the outro. Now for the vocal delay, I'm using the BX Delay 2500.
You've played the part before, a jealous role, but never figured out how the...
So that delay just sounds beautiful. I have about 39% feedback going on because I want that delay to die out as soon as she starts saying the following phrase. You don't want that to go over the next phrase. On the second delay, I am using the same plugin, the BX Delay 2500, but with a different time. I'm using a quarter note. With this delay paired with the unfiltered audio biome, it gives it that spacey feel to it, if you notice on the pre-chorus.
You're a star in my show, a star in my show.
And there it is. Again, all my processing, reverbs, and delays are running through the SSL 9000J, and each delays and reverbs is processed differently. I also suggest to cut a lot of that low end and high end on your delays and reverb just to get just to have the vocal to shine a little bit, so it doesn't like interfere with the vocal sound. And on the vocal bus, I am using the Brainworks Iron, and this is just to even out levels of the whole vocal tracks. So let's hear the vocals with the Iron going and without.
You could play the hero, dancing in the spotlight. I could be a villain.
So if you notice, there's really not that much going on, but it's helping those peaks a little bit. And this is with it bypassed.
You could play the hero, dancing in the spotlight. I could be a villain.
And this is with.
You could play the hero, dancing in the spotlight.
And again, you hear that difference in volume because I have a little bit of that output going as well as the input, just for the vocals to like stick through the mix a little bit. Let's actually hear that with the whole track.
You could play the hero, dancing in the spotlight. I could be a villain.
All right, so now let's move on to the instrumental part of the song. So in the instruments, I have 808 going, I have strings, I have some vocal chops going, but none of them are running simultaneously, so I have them in separate parts of the song. So aside from the guitars, you could hear those vocal chops going on in the background. Um, and that's basically what I have going. And then there's a vocal pad going as well on the second half of that chorus. And I will show you how I mix the guitars. This was challenging for me because I had the 808s going, the rhythm track, and then I wanted the guitar sound to like fit perfectly with in the mix. So the first plugin I used on the guitar is the BX Digital V3. It's great for surgical EQing. So any of those unwanted frequencies, you could just cut it, done. Let's hear how the guitar sound with it bypassed. And now let's hear it with it. So if you notice, it got rid of a lot of that unwanted frequency. I'm gonna solo that band so you could actually hear what I'm talking about. So around 3K, you could hear that certain frequency that's just sticking out that I didn't want to be there. As well as 5K, that piercing frequency, I didn't want that to be there as well, so I just cut that out using this EQ. So if you notice those frequencies that just ringing out of it, unwanted frequencies that are just ringing out, those I use this EQ to just notch them down to make it sound more clean. After I use the V3 plugin, again I run it through the SSL 9000J. With that, I cut a lot of that low end just to get that muddiness out and have the 808s and the rhythm track cut through the mix more. Hear how it sounds with the plugin bypassed. So if you notice, there's a lot of that low end going, and this is with it active. To give you an idea what I'm talking about the low end affecting the lower part of the mix as a whole, I will play the 808s as well as the rhythm track. So there's a lot of mud going on there, a lot of low end. So what I did is cut a lot of that, and this is with it active. And also what I did is I added a little bit of that high mid frequency just for it to stick out a little bit. And in the low mid frequency, I cut a little bit more as well as the low frequency. So there's a lot of cutting going on just to give it that, just to give the guitar to shine and more room for the 808s and kicks to come out the mix. So this is it with it active. So with just that simple tweak, you could hear the separation between the guitars, the rhythm, and then the 808. I wanted that 808 to shine more, that low end to shine more. Also on the guitar tracks, I routed the guitar tracks to a guitar bus, and on the guitar bus, I used the Lindell 50 series. The reason why I used it is that I wanted to have that little bit of that grit, that little punch that I wanted for the guitars. So again, I am only using the compression part of that, so it will just like iron out the guitar a little bit. That's it with it engaged. And this is with a compressor bypass. And this is with it engaged. Another instrument that's driving the stanza is the piano synth. Let's give it a listen. All I did was use the SSL channel strip. And again, I cut a lot of that low end and I automated it because there's certain parts of the song where the kick is not prominent or the bass is not prominent. And with that, I would introduce the low end of that synth to fill up that frequency a little bit. On the pre-chorus, when there's no rhythm going, I introduce a little bit of that low end on the strings. Let me play the drums with it. All right, so you see what I did there is that using automation, I was able to achieve that movement in the piano synth. I filtered it all the way up, so it gives you that almost that transition. So now let's move on how I mix the background vocals. So this is the background vocals for the chorus.
Hero, spotlight, villain.
So I had the harmonies routed to a bus. The harmonies was recorded pretty well, so I didn't have to tweak it individually. So usually when you have a bunch of vocals routed to a single bus, certain frequencies will be heightened. The Brainworks V3 is perfect for that, for surgically removing those unwanted frequencies that has been heightened by the same signal. If I play this harmony bypass,
Hero, spotlight,
I'm gonna have it active.
hero, spotlight.
Now if you notice around 3K, I'm gonna play that one more time. You hear the harsh frequency? I didn't want it to be there. And around 1K, as well as around 10K. Basically what I'm doing here is just cleaning it up before I route it to a channel strip where I do the tone shaping. With this plugin, you could just go up and down, and then up and down, and when you hear a certain frequency that just sticks out, I just notch it.
Hero, spotlight.
All right, so after I clean up the harmonies using the V3, I route it to the channel strip, which I do mostly tone shaping. So let's hear the harmonies with the channel strip bypass.
Hero, spotlight.
And this is with it active.
Hero, spotlight.
So if you notice, it got rid of a lot of that low end. The reason why I did that because I want the body of the lead vocals to shine more and without the harmonies affecting it. And I'll actually play the lead vocals with it, so you know what I'm talking about.
The hero dancing in the spotlight.
You could hear the harmonies just behind the vocals. Now let's hear that with the channel strip bypassed.
The hero dancing in the spotlight.
So just by cutting a lot of that low end and high end, it gives the main vocals its own space within the mix. Let's hear that one more time. This is with it bypassed.
A hero dancing in the spotlight. I could be a villain.
All right, and now this is with it active.
A hero dancing in the spotlight. I could be a villain. Your villain.
And that's just by cutting. See, if you notice, I cut a lot of the high frequency, the high mid frequencies, the low mid frequencies, as well as the low frequencies. So like I said, I didn't want the harmonies to take over the vocals. I just wanted to be there to give the lead vocals a little bit of that body and weight. So after I'm done treating the background vocals, I route everything, the background, the harmonies, into a single bus where I slap a compressor, and I am using here the Lindell 354E. This would just tame all the peaks and balance everything throughout. So I'll play this part. And this is with it bypassed. And this is with it active. So it just brings it out a little bit more, you know? And kind of like, I want to like add a little bit of color to that. So this plugin is just perfect for it. So what I like to do at the end of the mix is use the HD2 plugin in the master fader. I'm using this because I just want to saturate that low end just a little bit. If you noticed, I have it only running at 27% and it's just hitting that low end part of the mix. So this is the plugin bypassed.
Hey, the hero dancing in the spotlight. I could be a villain. Your villain.
And this is with the plugin active.
Hey, the hero dancing in the spotlight. I could be a villain. Your villain. I could play the part.
So it just gives that low end a little bit of that saturation that I want. What I usually do after I'm done mixing is I would use the BX Master Desk on the master bus, as well as the Brainworks BX Limiter True Peak. I'm not a mastering engineer, but I want to get an idea of how my master would sound like. And these two plugins are just great for that. So this is the song with it bypassed.
Hey, the hero dancing in the spotlight. I could be a villain. Your villain.
And this is with the plugin active.
Hey, the hero dancing in the spotlight. I could be a villain. Your villain. I could play the part. Harley Quinn.
Well, there it is. I hope you enjoyed my Mix with Mega session, and I hope you found it useful. You can check out more of these sessions from various artists at the Plugin Alliance website, and you should go check it out. Again, this is Eryck Bry, signing out from Mercy Sound Studios. Happy mixing.